stories written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. They're back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger. Quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. They're back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 8 p.m. Pacific time on the West Coast, and that means it is time for Legends of the Hidden Temple. Actually, it's a show on Tuesday. I am your host, Tim TK, joined as always by Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
Hello, everybody. This is Quentin Bedwell. I'm the artist, penciler, and inker on Trump's Book 3. Also, some unannounced things. Night Rise is another one. Also, a game maker, developer of board games and card games. You can check out my game on gamecrafter.com, Relic Quest. And I do all kinds of other little things, commissions and piddling, and I collect figures and all kinds of other nerdy stuff.
Very good. And we're also joined, as always, as of last week, by Mr. Jose Fuentes.
Hi, I'm the inker for Obsolete.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And I am the writer, creator of Wolf Hunter, and writer, co-creator of Unnamed Project in the YouTube chat. What has a name? It's just not a public name yet. Our boss says hi.
All right. Hello, Mr. Boss.
Perfect. Alrighty. So we are your crew for tonight's show on Tuesday. My eyes probably look a little weird because I have a sty on my right eyelid, so it is swollen and will not open all the way up.
A sty on your eye.
Sty on the eye. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about digital versus physical comic creating and just about whatever aspect we can think of, since we're all multi-talented people. So, but before we get into that, let's talk about our weeks a little bit. Quentin, what have you been reading, enjoying, watching, playing, otherwise?
Well, I have been doing something very bad. I've been watching the news.
Ooh.
So that's not good.
Are you okay?
Other than that, I've just been looking at some DIY stuff on how to make your own figure stands. Very simple, so that you don't have to pay all that money, to buy your own figure stands. You can just make them.
Yeah.
Just take some 12 gauge wire or 75-pound wire, some field line pliers, and if anybody's interested, just look it up on YouTube, and
There we go.
it works very good, very good. Other than that, just finished the 2 seasons of Jack Ryan. I have been loving my champion, Miss Fury. And, oops, there you go.
Just to see if everyone's
Champion Miss
awake.
Fury. And also, whoa, flip book, Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. And also, Kalis. This, let me tell you, this is a good book. And the Kickstarter that's going on right now for the book 3 and 4, man alive, that thing is awesome. Let me tell you, I love it. It is just the perfect mix of genres for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I ordered the trade because that cover is
That's what I ordered.
so good.
You can support that on Indiegogo or Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is funded, is it?
Kickstarter is like double.
Yeah.
Indiegogo needs a little bit of love.
Well, it
so.
should be. That's an
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
amazing title. And also on Indiegogo, I think all they have is the trades. I could be wrong, but anyway, that's what I got as well, was the trade.
All right.
Can't wait.
Let's say I just read the first issue for Kalis,
Nice.
and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Jose, what have you been reading, watching, playing, enjoying?
Like I said, I was trying to read
Yeah.
Colorado Kid. I talked about that before we started, and about 3 chapters in for the year. Mostly, I just picked up also, like last week, I picked up, I already read the first issue, but I picked up issue 2 and 3 of Barbaric from Vault Comics.
Yeah.
And that was pretty interesting. Like
Nice.
the third issue I got is all line work, pencil, or all inks. Like there's no color on it, which is really neat to look at.
Yeah. I love any sort of experimental look you can give a comic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to is still IDW's collection for adapting Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. The work they did there is super trippy. I love it. I have been reading Rain Shout by P. DeJelly Clark. It's a shorter novel, but it's a good one. And I have also been trying to catch up with Warhammer Age of Sigmar. The new edition dropped last month, and they just put out the new rulebook for the army I collect. So I am learning all the rules and how they try to break my army. Yep.
I have friends who play that, and they talk about it a lot. And
Yeah.
they have to explain it to me when they start going back and forth. I'm here like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so they have to, like, every now and then, Joe, this is what we mean. I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's. I had we had a game night last Friday, and we had a new person joining us. So we did Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, and then they got fine. They're super into that, and they switched over to Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And by the end of turn 2, you could tell that like the gears had stopped turning, and they're just jammed, and there's smoke coming out of his ear. Yeah, it's not the most beginner-friendly set of rules, and Games Workshop does not want to simplify their rule sets.
Really aren't.
Yep. Alrighty. So this week we are talking about physical versus digital. We have a couple of gentleman artists here with me. I happen to be a writer, but I might talk about there's some psychological things I did some studies on physically writing versus using a word processor. So if we have word processor.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that. I heard what you had mentioned there in the chat. I found that very interesting. I didn't know there was a difference, but I can see how there would be.
Yeah. 1 second here while I get sources pulled up. Yes, so essentially there it is. Yeah, there's a study they did at the University of Tokyo. And this is kind of the most recent research on it. They've done stuff on this before on different elements of writing, but this is the one that actually had to do with they were looking at students who are taking notes on pen and paper versus on a tablet or on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And in essence, they found that writing by hand increases your recall.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
And I also had a 25% quicker response at note taking, essentially being able to determine important information and then condense it down. So, and there have been several things in the future, but essentially what that would mean for something like writing a comic is that if you actually want your story to stick with you, if you do your initial writing on pen and paper, you're going to know those elements a lot more deeply, at least from a psychological aspect. So it's going to be much easier to recall what beats you're looking at without going back to your beat sheet each time. And also when you're breaking down someone else's work or thinking about what your next beats are going to be, you're going to be quicker at determining what's going to be the important information you need to have condensed down as a beat. There are also some things that did years past where just in terms of time and the internet it's an amazing thing, but also it's the worst thing imaginable.
True.
Yeah.
So unless you have like a productivity mode where you can turn off outside distractions, you are much more likely to lose productivity time if you have that open. So obviously I do a lot of my second and third drafts typed out because that's how you send it out to everyone. So what I do at that time typically is I'll take my laptop out to like a coffee shop or the park or someplace where I wouldn't have internet access, essentially. And this is just a work computer, so I didn't Steam and anything is not installed in it.
Yeah.
So it's just the word processor, and I can't really open up anything that would get too bad. Except for now we have internet on your phone, so just kind of throw that away as well. But
Yep.
And then also you feel like Ernest Hemingway or Edgar Allan Poe, just sitting there with your hot mug in the middle of a park. It's great. Poe famous for writing in the cold winter nights in the park, so much so that he got sick chronically.
Oh.
Yep.
And then he died.
That was a rough time to live anyway. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
with consumption or TB.
Mm-hmm.
And man.
Yeah, because that's exactly it. You internalize more of the details, so you're a lot more familiar with it. So Wolf Hunter, a lot of that is stuff that I would, or if I'm thinking about the next couple, like what exactly, if I get writer's block or whatever, actually drafting, I'll go through and actually write out what I think the next couple pages would be by hand. So
I totally buy that though, because when I used to have to memorize things, that was my plan. I didn't learn it anywhere. I'm sure it's probably been taught somewhere or something, but it's just something that I did. Is I would write it down at least twice, and or parts, especially if I had to speak or something, I would write down the parts that I really wanted to remember in whatever I was speaking. So that helped me loads.
Yeah, and the same thing like in if you're in the theater, if you're given a monologue or something like that, it was the last one I was in. It was 12th Night. I was Malvolio. Malvolio has a monologue where he reads a letter from a prankster pretending to be his lady love. And so, rather than trying to just memorize from the script, I would actually go through and then transcribe it a couple times. And that helped quite a bit. And Cassisi Harris says, I wonder if the same is true for art. And that's why you guys are here.
Yeah, I totally believe it is, actually. Yeah, I believe that anytime that you do something like another artist or try to copy something or whatever, I think it really does stick. There's some parts of it that stick. I totally. And, a lot of people say, and I've heard a lot of artists say this, and, to each their own, but a lot of them say, draw from life, don't copy another artist. Don't, I've said this before, if you draw from life, when you get to stuff like fire or smoke, or, there's a lot of different ways that you can draw that. And I have found that some artists on certain things like fire and smoke, that's like, wow, their fire and smoke just looks amazing, and the way that they translated that from, into ink was awesome. And, it just was a lot easier to see another artist do it and be like, wow, that's cool. And you see this other artist and this artist, and you kind of do your own thing in between. So some things are very subjective that you can't really draw from life as well. If you got an artist there, that inspires you, then, it really helps to be able to look at other artists and stuff. Does that make sense?
See there. Do you think drawing on tablet is different than drawing on paper?
It's definitely
It definitely is. It definitely is. What do you think, Jose?
So I personally prefer to do things traditionally. I like having like the brush and the crow quill and the holding on to the friggin' ink in my hand while I'm working. I enjoy doing that. Like figuring out, like you were talking about doing smoke and stuff. Like I would have, traditionally I can work it out easier because I'd be like, oh, I can use water soluble graphite on this.
Right. Yeah.
To render it and make it look, a little more lifelike, a little more organic. But digitally, I mean, you could do that as well. But digitally, to me, it's fairly new to me. I mean, I've been doing digital inks for, I don't even know, 14 years, like here and there. Like I said, I had someone teach me how to do it over AOL Instant Messenger, and it was awesome. But I've been doing it on using Illustrator inking. So because I use Clip Studio now, and I'll never say I like it because somebody might hear it and he'll throw it in my face. So
right.
I'll never say I like it, but it's what I use right now.
And you're not endorsed by Clip Studio.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
No Clip Studio t-shirt on me.
So until they start paying you some dollars.
You're not wrong. But
Clip Studio were available.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I feel it does like expedite the work. Like you definitely move a lot faster, I think, doing it digitally. But having to go back and forth, one of the things I noticed, I've been doing sketch cards because I have a comic book shop that's opening up October 1st in my area. And I'm going to be sitting there doing sketch cards for kids and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so I'll sit there, I'll work on the sketch card, and then I'll do this. Or this. And I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
So trying to enlarge it to work.
Or Control Z.
Right. Constantly hitting on the side of my desk. Like, gosh dang.
Undo.
Same here. It definitely speeds up the process. There's no cleanup other than your coffee cups and stuff around your desk. But like I have art materials. It's honestly, in the long run, I would say as well that it is a lot cheaper because, man, art supplies these days, which I don't really know that they were ever super affordable, but man, if it's got certain brand names on it, it'll really cost you. But then again, they are tools, just like a mechanic has his tools. But the difference is that once he gets a crescent wrench, that crescent wrench could be good for 5 to 10 years.
He loans it out to his buddy.
Yeah, you buy pencils or paintbrushes, they're not gonna last 5 to 10 years.
No.
So anyway, it gets rid of a lot of the art supply costs, the art supply cleanup. But if you're talking, there is nothing like sitting down with a pencil though and an eraser, on a good piece of paper that you like the feel of. There's nothing like it. You have 100% control. And the same with inks, if you got a good set of pens that you love, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, I have all my inks setting up behind me.
Yep. And you pick out your favorites, and what your favorites are may not be other people's favorites. And some people, you may even feel a little bit, self-conscious about some of the stuff you use compared to what other people are using. But, it's how you do it, and it's all yours, and it's how you get it done. And, with digital art, there's just none of that. It's all, it really does take time with digital art to be able to get it close to your style that you have in IRL, with the traditional. It takes a long time, and but it is doable.
I used a drawing tablet before, and like practicing to get the hand, technically the hand-eye coordination with the screen took a little bit of work to, to get into that habit. But doing it on the iPad, it really is like sort of like having the paper there.
Yeah.
And to answer Kasisi, the technique is different. When you're doing stuff traditionally on paper, I do a lot of like because I use a 2H or a 4H when I start all drawing to rough everything out. You know what I mean? To get my gestures in, and then I clean up and do, you know what I mean? Add like HB lead weight. But with doing it on the iPad, for me anyway, I don't have to do that. I don't have to, like, to me, I don't have to do it nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, to me, it's just a matter of, like, I guess the technique is a little different. Like, you know what I mean? The way you go about it.
I think also kind of when it comes to like internalizing what you're working on, there is the psychological dissonance you get there when you're working with a tablet or with any sort of digital medium, is that it's not going to be 1-to-1. It's going to be like 1 to 1.3.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a little bit of just something off that'll pull your mind off it. But then also the fact that you can press Control Z, whereas that you might approach it a little less mindful, a little more lax, knowing that like if I mess it up, we can repair this, which it can be a good thing because
Right.
it allows you to come back and do things. But when you're actually approaching something, knowing that like if you where the line goes, and it's staying there. That first really be like involved and like intimate with your work.
Like
all your pencils is where your mistakes. You want all your mistakes to be because you can erase them. But see, another thing about that too, though, this is where digital art comes in, and just as a winner. And we'll talk about the loser of it in a few minutes, but the real winner of this is, you see how I've got this penciled here. It's so rough. Like you can't even, if I were doing this traditionally, I would have to completely pencil all of this out before somebody or myself came back and inked it, or else they wouldn't know where to put the lines. Okay. And the reason for that is like Tim said, once you put the line with the ink, the line is there. It's done, in traditional. But with this, you can just loosely get your forms in and then go straight to inking, because you know what? You can just go back in here and erase those lines. You can't do that with real traditional ink. So you essentially you can treat your inking phase and your pencil phase as the same thing. So you're killing two birds with one stone. Really, once you get the developmental or the thumbnails done, you can just go in and just start, playing, essentially. So there's that. That helps out a lot. Speeds up a lot.
Yeah.
Now, the loser is, there is a certain kind of charm, and everybody knows what I'm talking about, with traditional artwork. When you see it, it's got that charm to it. It's amazing. And you can sell it, and it's one of a kind. Nobody else is going to have it. If you have an original piece of artwork, which is something that Silverline offers in the Kickstarters a lot of times, I mean, that's yours. You have a piece that artist and people worked on for a long time. And, there could be drops on the page and all kinds of other little things, you've got a piece of somebody's time when you have a traditional piece. Digital, not the case.
I think to answer Kasisi's next question here, do you feel digital aspect waters down the expertise or specialty in art? I don't think that's necessarily the case for most people, because if someone's an expert or a specialist, you're going to be able to tell kind of regardless of what they're working on. Their style is going to be present. But I think it may not have the same level of expression as if you're going to have them do something traditionally. But I think once someone has reached that expert level, they're going to be an expert kind of no matter what. But I think honestly what digital has really done is actually lowered the barrier to entry.
Yeah.
because no longer do you need to first like buy the drafting paper or and then like attend a class on like here's the basics of illustration or here's the basics of inking. It's you can have someone on a whole instant messenger just up on like, all right, here's what you're going to do with your mouse.
I'm telling you, that was
Yeah.
fantastic. I will forever be grateful.
Yeah, but I think it's the the in that aspect, I feel like we're saying we're writing physically and digitally is similar. Is that expertise kind of shines through no matter what, but the barrier to entry really changes, as well as the what it really is. It's a level of expression, like what Quentin is saying. Like when you're seeing something done on pencil paper, there's going to be a little more flaws to it. It's going to feel more honest, but that also the flaws add in little bits of personality.
Yeah, it
Right.
gets rid of some unintended accidents that end up making its way into the final product, which some people call art. I call it a flub. I don't like it. I'm a perfectionist, and I hate. You know what? Another downside of digital is the zoom tool. I won't get into that at the moment, but let me tell you, the zoom tool is not your friend a lot of times. But I look at it like this: as far as the skill goes, you've got a carpenter who has a hammer, traditional. Then you've got a carpenter who's got a nail gun that plugs in. Do you see the difference? They're both going to do the same quality of work. You're getting their build style, their their preferences and all that kind of stuff. But one of them's going to be outrunning the other one 90 to nothing.
Yeah.
And now I wouldn't say that digital is going to make you so much faster, that much faster, but I'm just saying, there's a clear difference between a man with a nail gun and a man with a hammer, or a man with a screwdriver and a man with a drill.
Yeah.
So that is the real difference. But the difference here is that when you go to sell your digital art, all I can do is sell prints. Now, it's really easy for me to get my stuff down there to the place and get it printed up, but it doesn't have the same charm. So I can't really charge as much.
Yeah. I think also you have the same differences, like in almost in the same sort of psychology, where you mentioned this. There's nothing like sitting down with your pencil and some paper, because it's that moment where you're approaching that, and you're going to be. There's a level of intimacy that you won't necessarily get with doing it digitally, and maybe that comes through in the spirit of the work, but that's art subjective, so that's entirely up to the reader. But it's you also have the element of when you're sitting down with a pencil and paper, you can't flip your paper over and there's Reddit and just spend hours scrolling through there.
Yeah. Well, we all suffer from that to some extent. So,
All right.
All right. Cece has one more question for us. Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
As many as you want.
Right.
Do you think generational differences would change how the difference between manual and digital is perceived?
I don't think so.
Oh.
And I say that because in art school, like we were taught, like the teachers in my school, did Batman back in the 70s and 80s, did Star Wars Legacies, and they did everything like traditional and by hand. And when they brought the pages in, they were absolutely gorgeous to look at. But one of those teachers also taught me how to digitally paint. So I guess it would depend on who it is and what they prefer. But like when you say generational difference, I feel that, you're meaning that people that are younger, because I'm not a young guy, but people that are younger are like very, very like fluent in like using Clip Studio to paint. And I've seen that. And even my daughter, she asked to learn how to use Clip Studio, and I was like, I can show you how to do it, but first, here's my iPad. Practice on it, play with it, and if you have questions, ask me, and then we can go from there. That instead of me just like trying to teach you something you don't want to learn how to do. And she taught herself how to do animatics on it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not something I can do. I mean, I'm sure if I asked her to teach me, she might.
Right. I think the difference in response might come after we've reached enough separation where there is a change in aesthetic taste. He sees it. I adjust this differently. I was born in an age where I had a long cord on a house phone. He appreciates the mobility of a cell phone. I think it's kind of we're seeing where like guys who did stuff old traditionally are now do things quickly. But I think because art is, or I think that's an entirely utilitarian tool. I mean, unless you're a collector, I wouldn't say there's much art in a house phone. But it's something where it is so subjective where. People like the smell of physically inked pages and that's something they grade based on. So I think there's enough difference there. But I think if you're looking at if there's an actual going to be a generational shift away from physically, I think that might come to a point where there is a change in aesthetic taste, which that's the idea now where you have modern design versus Art Deco, where like if someone has Art Deco drapes, you're like, oh God, what's going on? But back then, that was the style, that was the art at the time. Or if you're talking visually, if you're alive in the 1700s, battlefield landscapes were the thing. They move on like 100 years later, it's portraits. And they move on 200 years later now, and it's abstraction or expressionism. And so everyone can appreciate the work and everything, but it's now you're not going to see the same artistic study into wide battlefield landscapes as you're going to see in expressionism.
Well, I'd also like to add to that, even like medical manuals. They used to completely be done by artists, and you could even go as far as signage, fonts, letter styles, all that kind of stuff. There used to be somebody that did that for a living, and yes, that skill is, for the most part, extinct. I know when I first started screen printing, I started when I was 15. That was back in the 90s, and computers were just making their way into that field. And man, did it change! It cut out a lot of runaround. I was there for the ruby lift and the color separating and the camera shooting and all that stuff, and it was a pain. And when computers got involved, man, it was so much easier, so much more streamlined. And there are people that I mean, they were super, super good artists. And I saw a lot of people, like a whole generation of people who didn't want to make the switch, just change jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like probably 30 years of, skill that was lost. They had to make money, so they went and started doing something else, and that's the sad part of it. But I don't think you're ever going to see.
Right. Like, the only thing
there will always be a demand for traditional work. And do I think it cheapens it? No, I think it, I think it makes it more accessible. If that makes something cheaper, yeah, I guess so. But I
think kind of combine what we're saying. The demand for it won't necessarily change, but the response to the taste might. But I think at that point, then the physical styling is just going to change because I mean, we still have comics being done physically now, like they were done in the 80s, and the style has changed drastically because the taste has changed.
Yeah.
So it may and it, kind of think about this like when digital first kicked off, everyone went digital for a little bit, and then people went back to physical because like, okay, here's a new thing, let's try this. The taste isn't quite there, so let's combine it and do that. But I think we're in a weird spot, in a weird market where collectorship is always going to kind of outweigh expedience, essentially.
Yeah.
Kasisi says, I guess music is an example of this. I mean, yeah, you have electronic music, and that's widely popular. But if you talk to, I mean, I'm part of the metal community, and if anyone uses too much processing on their album, they get lambasted.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can be so we're kind of at the point now there, like here, where it's more about computer assisted rather than computer dominated skill set.
So Tima, I did not know that. So the more processing and stuff that you have, the post edits and stuff like that you do in your music, the less well it's looked upon.
Depending on the market, but yeah, generally, even for some pop groups, like that's the reason why people liked Fallen in Reverse or early Maroon 5 is because there's a level of rawness necessarily that they end up losing in later years because they added in much more processing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why like alt indie is picking up now is because it's Aurora. She's a great example of this. She's the new indie sweetheart, and her stuff is very simplistic. It's typically just her vocals in one track, and then a few layers of backing instrumentation, but not a whole lot else besides that.
Well, here's another thought for you. You know, you watch the History Channel and different documentaries and stuff, and they're digging up all these old cultures and, you know, wondering what some of this stuff is and all that kind of stuff. You think about this, these people, and we kind of consider them to be primitive to some extent because they were writing cuneiform on clay tablets, you know, and chiseling and you know, in the case of cuneiform, you know, they were pressing down in soft clay a tool to make letters, and then but the thing is as primitive as you think it is, here we are finding it, you know, 1,000 years later, 1,500 years later, you know, and there's record of it, you know. But for us going all digital, 1,000 years from now, when they're digging you up, they're, you know, if anything, and God forbid anything does happen like that, but I mean, if we have 1,000 years left, they're not going to have any idea. They're going to be digging this stuff up, and they're going to be like, "What in the world is this?" You know, so that's funny.
Yep.
I don't know what you're talking about. I plan on being here for 1,000 years.
Yeah. Hey man, the medical technology is going.
That's right.
Just you wait. Just become the Futurama head in a jar. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's also that too, like a reason why a lot of collectors like, you know, even now finding modern physically done pages is because they want to have the physical record to hold on to of their book, and also why, you know, people still buy traditional. I mean, you can buy any comic ever printed online right now for probably cheaper than you could in person, but a lot of people don't want that. They want to have the actual physical thing in hand. So,
well, also, if there's a certain artist that you like, I mean, yeah, you're going to want a piece of original art. I mean, what I wouldn't do for, you know, some of my most beloved comics to have the original art from him, from them.
And that's like probably just like an insane human psychology thing, because we don't necessarily make the most sense at times, but I mean,
Yeah, because to me, I mean, and you too, Tim and Jose, y'all, I mean, that if you had an actual physical copy of, like, say, your favorite book from the 90s, that would be like a piece of history. Like if it was Spider-Man or Batman or.
That's the whole reason I hunted down this run after I'd read it like 5 times already, and then lost one run of it. It's just because I love it. It's great. And if I managed to find my hand on the physical print of Rocky Kim's art, I would for sure drop some cash on that.
And see, that's something that you just can't do digitally.
Right.
That is the probably that, and the zoom tool is the worst things about digital. I say the zoom tool because I'm a perfectionist, and that just does not work well.
Well, because you get in there, see all the aliasing and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also the nice thing is that there's a weird amount of forgiveness that also happens if you're doing something physically, just because your eyes try to make it make sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a place that's got oil paintings and you get real close to those things, I mean, from a certain distance, they look amazing. And you get real close to them, and they're all just,
yeah.
That's actually my favorite thing to do.
It is mine too.
Yeah.
But
I
don't
want
like
to see the
do
brush
it.
strokes. I want to see how they got this particular shadow, with and it looks like minimal paint, and they created this illusion, and that's
right.
I want to see if I can like suss out that specific technique that they use.
Yeah. I think this is a writer. The example of that is I always get a chuckle when I find a typo in someone's published work. But if anything happens in your own art like that, you're like, oh God, no! Why did no one tell me?
Yeah.
But yeah. Jeff Potts says how they got that. Only the shadow knows.
Only the shadow knows.
Yes. Yeah. I mean. We talked about this a couple times on stream, and obviously talking about Age of Sigmar earlier. I paint model miniatures for war games, and there's a lot of detail that you can just kind of flub over on those, and then you're standing like 3 feet above them, and they're all grouped up into units, so it all looks great. But if you were like get really deep in on one of those, you're gonna notice some weird things on
the eyes like this.
Yes.
Okay, you're over 40 and you don't have your bifocals on.
That's right.
And you're like, yeah, man, this thing looks awesome.
Silly. So I guess now at this point in time we can probably talk about a little bit of our own experiences or history with physical, digital. Not necessarily maybe get into the new show of like how long on each, but if you want to do that, good. So Quinn, about how much time of your life as a professional artiste has been digital as opposed to physical?
I've been doing digital for about 14 years, and I have to use it absolutely every day. That's my day job. I'm a graphic artist. I work for a company that does T-shirts nationally for schools. We give college grade, T-shirt designs to high schools. So I am a custom artist there. So whatever somebody wants is what my day consists of. And we turn out, during playoff time, we turn out, over 250 pieces of artwork a day. That's crazy. And there's like really 9 of us. There's 9 of us. Now on the custom side, there's 3 custom artists, but I'm the custom guy. Like if you want something drawn, and that's why I hate those changes that come in that, hey, could you turn him a little 3/4 turn? They're like, hey, we're not 3D modeling here, sir. But you can't say anything. You just do it, You
did 1/4 profile. I really want 1/5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The one thing I didn't like about graphic design was like having like the revisions. I hated having to redo everything.
And that's the thing about the company I work for. It's all free revisions.
Oh man.
Yeah, so they can change them.
Happy customers, angry employees.
Yep, it's job security all
Yeah.
the way though. But about 14 years, I got my first Intuos tablet about 14 years ago. Man, that thing was a nightmare when I first started using it. Man, it was a nightmare.
Facts.
Drawing down here, looking up there.
Mhm.
But I had told the story in another stream that, I just decided one day because I just stunk at it so bad. I just decided, look, I am not doing another traditional thing until I master this. And it took about 3 months to not really master it, but get to where my thoughts were actually translating out pretty easily, the way I felt like, I'd felt like I'd really made a milestone. I put it that way. It didn't take me that long to get good at it, just where I felt good about it, where I could express myself really with it. So after that, it wasn't that bad. And then when I started drawing on screen, that was a whole other hurdle because here for so long I was using the Intuos tablet. Draw down here, look up there. Well, now I am dealing with a screen that I'm drawing on, and that was about 5 years ago, maybe 6. And that was a little different because of Parallax. Parallax, not the Green Lantern. Parallax is where, I don't know if y'all can see my dot on the screen, but it's when because of the thickness of the glass, the dot is offset a little bit from the tip of your pen.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for those of you who don't know, and me, I've actually, because I use cheaper things, everybody else is paying $2,500 for a Cintiq. I have a XP pen. It's a Chinese, or actually this one's German, knockoff of a Cintiq that is about $400 for the whole kit and caboodle.
Nice.
Yeah.
There is a level of parallax, but I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody comes along that's been using a Cintiq, they're probably not going to like it. Or an iPad. You're probably not going to like it. But I'm so used to it.
It's the demon,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I actually have trouble with my Samsung Galaxy Note because it has no parallax. Like where you draw is where it's the line is going to come down, and I actually have a problem with that because it is so good. And I'm used to there being a little offset so I can see my dot.
A little too accurate.
Yeah. Which was the problem when I moved from the Intuos that I never knew was going to be an issue. When I moved from the Intuos to drawing on screen, is my hand being in the way.
Yeah.
I never knew that would be a thing. I mean, and I had drawn, like traditional and everything, and I never noticed it then, but it actually, I never knew that was something that was actually a plus about the Intuos, was that you drew down there, your hand was out of the way, you could see the whole picture as it was as you were drawing, and so I mean, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, one of the reasons that that I've been able to get where I'm at with digital is because I have to do it so much. I don't know how a person does it that doesn't have to do it.
Right.
I can really see that a lot of people might just get it and be like, you know what, I hate this, I'm gonna sell it.
Sure. How about you, Jose? About how much? I guess how long have you been at this? I know you said you started out with Adobe Illustrator, but about how much time of your creative career has been digital versus physical?
I mean, as a whole, like I said, I started roughly 14 years ago, but I've only really done maybe 5 or 6 years worth of digital digital work. It started off. I actually went to Full Sail for a couple of years. I have a family, so I did like the online classes.
Oh, yeah.
That they had, and that's where I realized I don't want to do graphic design because I don't like doing the same thing over. I know it sounds really weird, but I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. And when they're like, oh, when you have a client, and I've had some, they're like, hey, fix this. This needs to be tweaked here. Like this needs to be tweaked here. Like you need to change this a little bit here. I was like, dude, you just told me to change it back to where I first started.
Story of my life, baby.
Right? I don't like that. Like I don't, and you can't like yell at somebody about it. You're like, okay, yeah, no problem. You can create like clauses in your contract to say, hey, I'm allowing only 3 revisions or something. But I mean, I think that clients tend to get upset about that, because they want it to look like how they feel they want it to be. And I mean, that's not going to change. So I really didn't like this. So I started doing more traditional stuff. And then, like I said, I went to art school, and before I went to art school, I was doing commissions, and all my commissions were like pencil and multi-liners and Copic markers and whatnot. And then I went to art school, and that was a little bit of both. You know what I mean? We were taught to do more digital stuff as well, not more, but like more of a balance. So as a whole, like I said, I think 6-7 years doing digital work, and I enjoy it. I prefer like the texture of the paper and like the texture you get when you use like crow quills, like I said, or specific inks, and just I prefer that. But for the sake of like getting things done a little faster,
I couldn't do this. I couldn't do comics because I have a day job. I don't believe that I could actually do it because I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a worker, I participate in my church. There's just there's no way I could have time to hope to even do all the stuff that I do.
Well, I am blessed that my wife opened up a birth center, and that everybody's having babies. I mean, Corona apocalypse definitely
over here too. Yeah,
helped her practice. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everyone staying home definitely helped her practice.
Well, that's one thing. Yes, there's a few things you can count on, and that's taxes, death, births.
Right.
Holy moly! And people are going to get sick. So if you can choose one of those fields, you're good.
Yep.
And I'd even say a garbage man, because they're going to throw stuff away. So
yeah, somebody has to clean up after everybody else. But yeah, so like because of the nature of her practice, it allowed me to be able to stay home and like work like full time as an artist, which I didn't think was going to happen. I thought I was going to have to like work a Bruce Wayne job and be Batman in the evenings. So like I said, in that regard, I'm pretty blessed.
Nice.
That's me, but you won't see me hanging upside down in my bedroom from on any little rails going across.
I do, but that's just from the inverted curl.
Say never.
Man, you gotta do those inverted sit-ups. Get that lower ab definition.
Yep.
I mean, I think I could do like a quarter, and that's it.
Well, if you see me, if you come to my house and see me hanging upside down, you need to call the police. Call an ambulance.
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing for like 6 years now, and then actually did some stuff a couple years before that, so probably about a total of 10-ish. With some publications here and there, and then about 6 years ago is when I actually started getting frequent publications, and then a little bit of copywriting, marketing on the side because it sells more than fiction.
Yeah.
But for creative writing, especially, my time like digital to physical writing is about 2 to 1. I mean, obviously, it takes more time to actually like draft out like panel by panel. Here's all the dialogue, whatever. But all the pre-planning work, all the pre-writing, the outlines, and even like some of the Marvel style scripting I do as my pre-write, that's all physical. And then it's the turning it into an actual book and making it pretend like I know what I was doing. I do that digitally. Alrighty. So as Quentin had mentioned, Canadian is showing. We have a Kickstarter going on, and I believe we have an ad for it. We do. So we're going to roll that now, since it is about the halfway point. Go buy our comics.
Hi, welcome to the crowdfunder for Kalis. I'm Roland Mann, and I run Silverline, the genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publishing company. And I'm here to tell you about Kalis. So come with me, let me tell you the story.
Hey everybody, my name is Brent Larson. I'm the creator and writer of the Silverline comic book Kalis. We very successfully launched issues 1 and 2 in the last couple of years. And I'm really excited to announce that in September we're going to be launching issues 3 and 4 simultaneously. The story is about Scott Anders, an astronaut who went up into space in the 60s on a mysterious mission for the CIA before disappearing. But he has reemerged today, seemingly not having aged and also a little bit invulnerable. In this story, in issues 3 and 4, you'll learn more about where he came from, why does he want to go back, who's the group that's trying to keep him here on Earth, and also what the word Kalis actually means. I'm sorry it took me so long. Some of you are thinking, hey man, that's a really long time to wait around for a comic book story to wrap up, to which I say, I totally agree, which is why we're also going to be launching a trade paperback that has all 4 issues in it. I hope you enjoy this story, and I know you'll enjoy Louis and Leandro's art. As always, it is gorgeous. I love it. So thank you again for your interest and for your support, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Science fiction, action, super stuff. You're going to want to check it out because you love that kind of stuff. You know you do. If you're new to Silverline, I got information I got to tell you. We've run 11 Kickstarters and successfully printed, shipped, and fulfilled all 11 of them. In fact, we're only like 2 weeks away from fulfilling our 12th one. So we know how to do this. We know how to make comic books. We know how to print them. We know how to ship them. In this day and age of unfulfilled crowdfunders, both on Indiegogo and on Kickstarter, I need to let you know that. You guys need to know that your pledge is secure with us because we're going to get you the content. Now, we hope you like the stuff, but we're going to get it to you. So please consider backing Kalis because you're going to get some cool stuff. And if you can't back, please consider sharing it. If you like comics, put this into the hands of folks that you know who like comics. We love comics. We love making comics. And we love you reading the comics that we make. And remember to make mine Silverline.
And we're back. That was Chief Cat Wrangler, Roland Mann, and Chief Spaceman Brent Larson talking about Kalis.
I love that trailer.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we're finally going to get to know where about the Kalis. What does Kalis mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As I've suffered through, I've actually got to see issue 3, but because you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As the blog post I put up this week, I've been a little bit of echo from someone, but I don't know who. But we're talking about it's a spy story. It's about a space race conspiracy. Scott Anders trying to get back to his new home. Problem is, his home's down in space, and there's an organization trying to stop him. The question is, what is he going to do about it? And what exactly is the nature behind it all? So we are looking at some digital art right now, actually. Quentin, what are you working on? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, I am working on some Wolf Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our World War II kind of secret history spy thriller. So set in the little black periods of World War II that they some weird stuff happened, but not a whole lot got disclosed on it. So we just kind of try and fill in the blanks there and have some fun with it. I'm not gonna lie, I think I ran out of my my bit of steam here for the first hour. As I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, I've been having some weird medical things going on with my eye. In addition to everything else, I have not been able to draft up as much as I normally would like to for our weekly topic. So I'll open up the floor. What is everyone's other thoughts, if you haven't already expressed them, on digital versus physical, or things you like more about one than the other? If you have examples of either that you think really kind of show the strength of either way of going about it, or even the weakness. If so, I know Roland will go on at some of Marvel's over-processed, like completely digital stuff now, where it's and I get it. It looks a little Play-Doh-y, for lack of a better word, but I'll put it before and let people kind of talk, and we'll riff for the next hour.
One thing I would like to say is, if you do digital, and you do it like I do so much, I have to do it. I mean, literally, I get off work and I go in there and make dinner, whatever I need to do, take out the trash, mow the lawn, whatever. But, and then I scoot back up here around 8 o'clock and start, and I'll go till whenever. I will say, don't neglect your traditional game, because eventually you're going to have to go to a con, or somebody's going to request something traditional, and if you're not willing to do it, then that by all means don't worry about it. But you do need to be careful that you don't get too far away from your traditional, because it is different enough that you'll just kind of be a little lost, with your technique. So
I definitely agree with that.
yeah, I know I had went too long, and then I went to a con year before last, I believe it was, and man, I just didn't do enough practice before, and the stuff came out, but it just didn't come out as quick as what I wanted it to. So I made a point after that, no more, going so long without doing, something, so.
Yeah, all my warm-ups, like when I wake up in the morning, obviously I go and get food, but like right before I start doing anything digital, all my warm-ups are all traditional, like going through hand gestures and just generally just stretching my hands out, and like traditionally, I think it definitely helps with keeping my hand moving digitally. You know what I mean? To keep that same feel, that same momentum that I have traditional on the computer or on the iPad.
Absolutely. And I think same could be kind of said for writing too. Because if you don't spend time to, do any sort of writing physically at all, when you actually come off the keyboard, it's going to take you like an hour to write a page, because you're going to feel weird. Your flow is going to be the same, because you have to have a certain flow in order to, write in decent formatting. And also, if you don't spend time on it, you're going to not be able to read your own handwriting, which is kind of important if you're then transcribing that into the final document.
Yeah, Curtis Vegeta said something the other night on the stream. He said that it's a perishable skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and that was good. That was a good way to put it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, anyone else got anything for the subject?
I wish I had the opportunity to do traditional a little more. It would be nice, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So I know people who demand production numbers. They love the the digital because you can really get it out and over to them so easy.
Right.
There's so much you don't have to worry about in the processing of it all. So there's
Right.
that. It's very fast.
I have had moments where I sat there and, even for school, where like I would turn something in and be like, I really would have done a lot more different things if I was able to do it traditionally. But
Yeah.
here it is.
Yep.
Like I'm hurt a little bit just because, like, having to get it done and like, oh, you have to do this digitally. It's like, do we have to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've known a lot of people that they like to do like their pencils traditional, and then they get them in a computer to do the inking or whatever. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of different stuff, even in the same program, just totally go a totally different direction with stuff. Just people's processes are so amazing sometimes. That's why I really like the studio stuff. Like whenever we were working in house at my job, because there was always a lot of stuff that could be gleaned from just walking by other people or discussing stuff.
Do you think maybe because you're not using up physical material, and it is easier just to undo stuff, that doing stuff digitally too might also lend itself to maybe more experimentation and trying something wildly different than you normally would?
Yes, and I will also say, especially when it comes to coloring. Now, listen, before I even go any farther, I'd like to preface, with my coloring. I am not a Roberta Conroy or a Curtis Fujita when it comes to coloring. They are excellent colors. I used to call, before I saw their stuff, what I did coloring, and it is good and it's passable. But I just always like to say that first. But when I color, sometimes there's just so many options that I get bogged down in options. With I'll accidentally hit the hue saturation tool over in Photoshop sometimes, and I'm like, man, this looks kind of good with that green tint. And then I start playing
20
with
minutes
it
of your
more.
time.
Yep.
30 minutes later, I've done nothing but go up and down this little slider. Wow, that looks good. No, what about this? What if I save a version of that? And then it's just sometimes, the options are so wide ranging. It's just it will totally bog you down.
Yeah. It's my own experience with painting. That's why now, like, I'm a fan of simple schemes where they'll do like a base 3 or a base 5. Like, everything is going to be these 5 colors in these specific tones, and then any kind of like blending or whatever do, or I just hit with like a wash or something. Which
I was going to ask for the blending to create shadows. When you just use the ink wash.
Yeah, pretty much. And for those of you unfamiliar with washes in terms of acrylic, it's just an Instagram filter for acrylics. It just
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Some people call it talent in a can. But of course you can always, like, if you're you can do a zenithal base or something where you do like half base black, half base white, and then it's going to create a natural highlight there, or you can actually do like just white striping highlighting. And that also does a much different effect, which I like, as opposed to actually just doing several layers, just slightly changing the tone each time. Roland Man, so what are some things you can do traditionally that you can't do digitally? I'm thinking of things like spackling. Can you get randomness digitally? Can you do it? He genuinely asks.
You can, like, spackling, like to me, is like you're taking the brush and like with like white paint and like just splattering it all over the place. You can do that digitally, but to me, it's not as controlled. I don't know. It's more controlled, I guess. And
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
It's hard to get
but-
too much randomness.
yeah, exactly. Like I prefer that randomness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And, like I have a stack of brushes over here, like two
Mm.
brushes, another brush, my Raphael's. You know what I mean? Just so that I can use it, like a ruler, so I can slap it against it. You know, tape to mask everything off. Just,
Oh yeah,
just the process itself is, I guess, is what I enjoy.
yeah.
I know I'll read something later that's like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, that's so true. But for me, right now, to the best of my knowledge, that's really about the only thing that you can't get with digital. It is the unintended consequences,
Yeah.
because you can say, I'm going to keep this or I'm not going to keep it. You've
Yeah.
got the Control Z. Oh, that didn't work out right.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, Control Z.
Yeah.
Whereas in real life, you start doing something like that. If ink falls on the page, well, let's see what kind of item I can put there,
Yep.
to take care of that little ink blob.
Right.
There's that, and again, I just like to go back to, you can't. It's harder to sell or have uniqueness, and also something else I've noticed too is people who don't do digital, sometimes they kind of look down on it. There's that. So um, that's a thing. That's a real thing. More so with some people than others, but
I just about died when I found out that there was still like typewriter elitism. Like obviously it's a very niche group, but I can't see the thing where like they're like different brands for like if you don't handwrite every single manuscript, you're not really writing. Then people are like a little more freedom, like, oh, you got to at least use a typewriter. And I'm like, why aren't you dead? I feel like you're a century old.
no kidding.
Yep. For going off that, have you guys have you had any pages or panels or something where you started doing it one way or the other, and then as you started working on it, you said, nope, it has to be done the other way, or it makes more sense to do it this way?
I don't think I've redone any pages, like switched it from like digital to traditional. Like, I mean, as a whole.
No, I tell
can
you,
see it.
not in that, but like other stuff, not in the traditional digital thing. I've started out doing something one way because I was doing a certain genre, and then I would just later on down the line I did something else, and like usually when I do fantasy, it tends to be a little bit more gritty. Sometimes I do things and, I go back and I look and I'm like, man, this would have looked a lot better if I kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Or if sometimes, I may say, well, if I roughen this up a little bit, it would have looked better. So there's that. I mean, got nothing to do with the digital traditional, though.
I mean, I think I'm still fairly new. I mean, in regards to like actually using Clip Studio, I mean, I'm still fairly new at it. Like, I'm still learning how to do. Like, I just in the last year learned how to download brushes onto it. I had to like message people to ask them about it. But like, I'm trying to get this effect, and I can't. Like, oh, just download a brush. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I knew I could do that with Photoshop, but I didn't know I could do it with Clip. And it makes sense. Like after it was said to me, I was like, oh, but like at first I'm like, oh,
well, it kind of sounds like the old piracy, like the old anti-piracy commercials. Like, you wouldn't download a brush, would you?
Right. I mean, I've gotten brushes that just like, why did I download that? That is not the intention I was trying to go for with the effect, or like, the what it was trying to give me, what I was looking as in contrast to what I was looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
One thing I do try to keep in mind when I'm doing digital versus traditional is I try my best. Speaking of brushes and filters and stuff like that, I try my best not to use brushes or filters that I can't do in real life,
right,
traditional. And the reason why is because I don't want that infecting my work. So that when I do switch over and I'm at a con or something and I'm doing traditional and people are watching me do, then I've got some part of my style that I am not getting because I'm not on a computer. Or I've had this happen before when I was first learning digital, as I started using a lot of filters and a lot of brushes and that did certain things. And what happened was there would be an update and I would lose, or switching programs, I would lose certain brushes and certain filters so that I couldn't do this thing that I had kind of inadvertently trained myself to rely upon.
yeah.
You understand what
Photoshop
I'm
is
saying?
notorious for that.
Yeah, so you have to be really careful. Yes, there is a lot of stuff that digital offers, but at the same time, it can be a real problem. You got to be careful not to rely on bells and whistles too much. Um, some of them, anyway. Of
Right.
course, use what you want, but just be careful, because eventually you are going to be doing traditional and you won't be able to use those filters or brushes.
Yeah, I was always told if you're going to use a filter, don't make it look like you used a filter.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise, like other artists will look at it and be like, "Oh, I know exactly what he used there." You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll get hate.
Yeah, really bad.
I remember when I first discovered 3D models and I was like, wow, I could put this in here and I could do this and do that. And I was doing it. And there was a friend of mine at work. We're still good friends to this day. We do artwork together. And, he said, you used a 3D model for this base, didn't you? And I said, yeah, how'd you know? He said, because it looks like you used a 3D model for this for this
Exactly.
anatomy. I was like, oh man, I thought I just stumbled onto something really great, a new way to do poses and stuff, and yeah, it was just not good. That was you live and learn.
Right. I don't
So
think it's bad using them if use it as
yep,
like that's what. Okay, this is kind of what I want to do, and then you tweak it up. You know what I mean, a little bit, but like
yeah,
if you use it as like a base reference, you know what I mean. I don't think it's
right, yeah, and
terrible,
I
but
do
like
that.
yeah,
I do that. But I was actually like, even when I would go to the coloring stage, I would use the fully rendered model of what I did. By the way, that takes way too long. That is like if you're doing that, more power to you. But I've done it before when I first started getting into 3D models and stuff. And man, you will spend a long time on 3D modeling.
Oh yeah.
It is not worth, dude. Just sit down and draw it.
right.
If you're having that much trouble with the pose, do it till you learn it. Because takes so long. But I'm glad he was honest with me, about it.
Right.
Your coloring. I can see the 3D model behind your inks. Where you used to get, because what I was doing is I was trying to get the light sources using the 3D model, and it just came out way too much. Uh, like I say, you live and learn, and
Right.
I've made all the mistakes. Well, not all of them. I don't want to say that because that's
Right.
like saying
So,
I've made several mistakes.
It's like you
Let's put
say
it
that,
that
and
way.
all of a sudden somebody's just gonna like analyze your
Hey.
stuff to try and make sure, like, oh, look.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I try to keep my work, and not rely too much on gadgets.
Right.
You can get in trouble doing that.
Absolutely. So then, I guess now when we were working on comic pages now, and since you are perhaps one of the world's busiest men, is this about everything digital now, or do you occasionally do a traditional page to have that to sell later at a convention or something?
For me, everything I do right now is digital.
Okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I should have mentioned at the beginning as well. Like, I'm evidently also working on secrety stuff, but for like doing obsolete, that's all traditional. I'm throwing in a few like traditional like techniques using different brushes and whatnot, but that's all digital. Like I said, I like doing traditional, but I haven't had the opportunity to do traditional inks. I have a friend that's putting out his own book, but it's very slow going, and he asked me to ink that, and I'm doing that one traditional. So I definitely get to like work with ink washes and water soluble
Nice.
graphites and like acrylic, or not acrylic, but like a pro white in there. You know what I mean? Just to do all kinds of like hand techniques. I walk out, and my hands all black and with white speckles everywhere. Like I look at my hands and I'm like, oh, you know what? I've worked today. And like Jan Dursema told me, like, if your hands aren't covered in ink and paint when you're done, then you didn't work that day.
Yeah.
So like anytime I do the traditional, I look, oh, I haven't worked enough. I need to keep going.
Yeah, that's the way I used to be years ago when I airbrushed,
Mhm.
and I'd have paint on my fingers, on my hands, some on my shirt here and there, and also not to gross anybody out, but when you blow your nose, it's
Oh, yeah.
like
The paint dust.
rainbow colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, taste the rainbow.
Yeah. Yep.
That overspray, that's some tough stuff.
Mhm.
As far as I do most of my traditional stuff now is just for fun. Like if I'm sitting on the couch, I've got these little tiny index cards. I say
Okay.
tiny; they're about 5 inches by whatever, 3 by 5.
Sure.
I like to get an ink pen, and I like to just doodle. I think that's a really good thing to do. I like to practice on different stuff like hands or eyes, or sometimes I'll get crazy and start doing expressions and gestures and poses and stuff like that. But that's mostly what I do now. Now, if somebody was wanting something traditional, I would. I don't know. I do some stuff sometimes depending on how busy I am, but uh, I just don't have time. To do a lot of that stuff. So yeah, mostly digital.
Okay. Well, I think we are kind of running out of steam on this subject, but it has been about an hour and a half. So unless anyone has any other thoughts or maybe our takeaway before we get Quentin rattled up on the news.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, that way I'm on live record that I was watching the stream on Sunday, watching Roberta's colors, and they were amazing. Like just watching her go through her process on there, I was trying to follow it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, oh wow, how did she do that? Like that's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just want to go on record saying that.
There's some stuff she does. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And, I do that too. But hers just looks better. It's just
and
yeah.
As in what we call in the entertainment industry a callback, that is where the level of expertise shines through, kind of no matter the medium.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to hear, another thing too about that is to hear her talk about color and what color means to her. I mean, that I've never really heard a colorist talk about the way they see color and all that. And I really appreciated that, her talking about that, because it gave me an insight into it, because I've just never been I know what I do, and I know what my influences are and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. But I am literally just I'm more of an illustrator. I am first and foremost an illustrator. I don't really get, and I think that's probably why I just never really got into color that much. Is or just did what would pass.
Right.
Is because I don't have that kind of insight that she was talking about in the last stream. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Well, this should
And in the news.
and in the
In
news.
the news.
I remember, as Morrissey said, stop watching the news
Yeah,
because
don't
the
watch it.
news contrives to frighten you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They make you really mad about stuff that you can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
work you up.
Yeah. Instead, follow entertainment news, because then you can get really excited when we put out a new book, or when
That's
you
right.
find Keanu Reeves is in another movie.
Yeah,
Has anyone else seen the trailer for Matrix 4?
Yes.
I have
Yes.
not.
I'm intrigued. I know a lot of people like didn't like. I mean, they liked the first Matrix, but then thought the rest of it was garbage.
Yeah.
Like, as long as like I don't go to a movie to like learn anything like existential. You know what I mean? But or Nicholas Cage.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
But if I can go there and shut my brain off and be entertained, that's really all I care about. But I don't want to sit there and go to a movie and be like, oh, this is wrong because of blah blah blah, and this is wrong because blah blah blah.
Right,
Even
right.
going to like Marvel movies, I think at the beginning I was like, okay, so with Spider-Man, I was like, oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. And then my wife was like, you need to stop. I'm like, you're not wrong. So like, okay, we'll be quiet. We'll just see if it entertains me.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't have to pick it apart,
Mhm.
I can be entertained. I was
Yeah.
entertained with the Matrix movies. I was entertained with the idea of a new Matrix movie. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet.
Given his just how awesome he's been in John Wick, and his ability to also be kind of weird existential in Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I am interested in Matrix 4, but we have the same boat now with movies where I try not to be too analytical with them. Like, if it's like pass fail is kind of my metric there. Unless it is selling itself as an art movie, in which case I'm like, okay, you're getting like, I need to have like a deeper meaning in life after coming out of this. But that's speaking of Nick Cage, he just recently did a movie that I need to watch called Pig, which is actually based off of it's like loosely based off of actual events with some stuff that happened up in the Portland restaurateur up in here, so just in my backyard.
I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, but it's he's supposed to be like he's a I forgot the name, like the actual name of it, but he's a professional truffle gatherer, and like he's the guy who like is the expert on like what type of truffles he needs. So he lives out in the woods with a truffle pig. And he does like all the high-end restaurants. He's the guy that they would buy stuff from. And then one day his pig goes missing or is taken or something like that. Apparently there's been some some events that a lot of people didn't like in Portland, where some restaurants started blackballing each other or started playing hardball tricks, trying to like force other people out. So
and that guy's pig got caught in the middle.
Exactly.
Right.
The pig's in the crossfire.
Then he called John Wick.
Yep. That's true.
And this is a plot to the new Matrix.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. It's Matrix Part 4 Pig. Yeah.
I'm in then.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
I loved the first Matrix. I don't. The second one was okay. The third, how it all ended. It was kind of cool, but just not what I was expecting.
Right.
But all in all, I liked it. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with it. I am like Jose. I like to be entertained. That's why I don't like a lot of politics and stuff that I watch, just because that is what I'm there for, is to be entertained.
Right.
And because I have enough realism, in my regular life, and I just don't really care for that to carry over into my entertainment. So, and I like to be entertained when I read a comic, when and I don't like people to try to drop me subliminal messages in their stories or ruin an entire story just to tell me something at the end. That, I just hate that when they ruin a story just to get a message across.
Roland Mann would like to remind us that Red Skull was in the first Matrix. Hugo Weaving is also an underrated actor. Yeah.
He was also V.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm not sure how my son managed to see that when he was younger, but like that was his favorite movie. He ended up so my son plays 8 different instruments, right? He's
nice.
15. He's done it.
Cool.
He's played 8 different instruments for like at least 5 years. Okay. At 5 years old, he joined our worship team at church.
Nice.
Yeah. So he created a drummer name for himself, and his drummer name was Joey V. So because he loved V for Vendetta so much, that's awesome. What the drummer name he gave himself.
That's I mean, I remember when I was younger, that movie was on like TNT and FX all the time.
Yeah.
But and like I think it was like it's one of those things where like you're at home, you're home on a sick day, and like it's either watching like midday game shows or just seeing like what like poorly TV edit movies are on, where half it's cut out or there's kind of re-record dialogue and the guys just don't care, they're there for a paycheck. Yeah.
What kind of simple word can we replace this swear word with?
Yeah.
See if anybody catches it.
That Jason Statham movie, Crank. That was watching that on FX on TV was something else.
I can see that. Like I watched that movie. I think I ended up renting it or something. I'm not sure how I watched it, but like I watched that movie, and by the end I was like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah. That was different.
I mean, again, entertained, but
yeah. Alrighty, well, it is about 9:40, so it's about wrapping up on our normal end time here. So we're going to give some more time for people to perhaps do our normal log off than we gave you last week. So again, you can follow Silverline Comics on any of our socials at some variation of Silverline Comics, maybe with underscores, maybe just all together in one word. We stream Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Sunday, Wednesday at the 8 p.m. Eastern slot. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Total Beach Comic Con already happened. If you were there, post it in Sham. Tag us. Let us know what happened. I liked it. And I don't think I need to make some banners for our own socials. So, Mr. Quentin Bedwell, where can people find you?
Find me on Facebook as Quentin Bedwell. If you go over to DeviantArt, QJB, Relic Quest on GameCrafter.com. I have an Instagram, Quentin Bedwell. I don't do Twitter. I have a TikTok, and I think I'm Quentin Bedwell on there as well. No aliases. So, that's where you can find my interpretive dance.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's about it.
Signing up for TikTok. Wow.
I've never seen Quentin Bedwell and Michael Flatley in the same room, so
I'm a lover of all types of art. So
Lord of the Dance, yeah.
All
right, Jose Fuentes, where can people find you?
Mostly Facebook. I believe it's Jose Fuentes Jose A Fuentes Art, and it's the same name for Instagram. And I agree, I don't have Twitter either. I know lots of artists use it, but I can't bring myself to use it. And that's pretty much it.
All right. You can find me on just about every social media at TimTKWriter, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where I mostly just post about Destiny 2. You can also find me on TikTok at Tim Doesn't TikTok, where I hope to bring back Punk Rock Book Club soon. And be on the lookout for Wolf Hunter coming soon, if at least in the Christmas special, if not sooner.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
That's good. All right, so we are your Tuesday show crew. We'll see you again for next Tuesday. Please stop it again for our Wednesday show. That is going to be a few hours later than we are, or earlier than we're here because they're on the East Coast. So until next week, remember to make mine Silverline.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.